Remember when you had to go to the roof to adjust your TV antenna for better reception? Welcome to Days Gone By, where we reminisce about things we thought we couldn't live without in the 1970s, but are now obsolete. The 1970s heralded the start of a new answering machine era. If you grew up in the 1970s, very little technology existed in the average person's home. When new technology became available, it fascinated everyone, and they were all eager to try it out. The answering machine revolutionized telephone calls by allowing you to record messages from callers when you were not near the phone. Before the advent of voicemail, it was the only way to ensure you got all important messages. The machine stored messages via tape cassettes, which you replayed later. At first, the machines were too expensive for the ordinary person, but by the late 70s, most people could afford them. Remember taping quirky or funny messages for your callers to listen to? The machines started their obscurity journey in the 90s with the availability of voicemail and mobile phones, which made managing messages more efficient. Today, manual phone switchboards from the 70s are forgotten relics that belong in a museum. The switchboards were essential for connecting offices and homes. When you called someone, the switchboard operators manually connected calls by plugging phone plugs into the correct jacks. Operators played a vital role in connecting each caller with the right recipient. They also provided directory assistance and helped make long-distance calls. These switchboards were phased out by automated systems that allowed you to make local calls directly and later long-distance calls. Cigarette vending machines were standard in the 1970s. You would find them in smoky bars, diners, or in plain sight in public spaces. If you were old enough to smoke, I'm sure the vending machines evoke a sense of nostalgia. They may remind you about nights out with friends, where you could buy a pack of cigarettes in a jiffy from a machine in the same joint. The machine was easy to operate. All you did was drop some coins in the slot, pull a lever, and voila! A pack of ciggies in the 70s cost between 50 cents and $1, making them affordable to most. Companies like national vendors played a role in making cigarettes available to all. Stricter policies such as age restrictions for smoking and higher taxes started leading to the machine's decline. The complaint was that even children could access vending machines with just a few coins. Remember when you entered a bar and selected the music you wanted to listen to? There were no disc jockeys in bars, and you chose the mood for the bar. In the 70s, jukeboxes were the life of the party. You would find them in bars, diners, and cafes, allowing the customers to choose their favorite tunes with a coin in a slot. Imagine entering a dimly lit and smoky bar in the 70s and hearing Merle Haggard belting out, "Today I started loving you again." The jukebox was an integral part of 70s entertainment, and it kept improving, offering better audio quality, the ability to cue multiple tracks, and stereophonic playback. You needed to have between 10 and 25 cents to enjoy great music affordably. With the onset of cassette tapes and compact discs or CDs, everybody could own a personal music collection, and thus the jukebox died a slow death. Speaking of music, the 60s and 70s, or the golden age, was a great time to be alive. Remember those Saturday nights when your dad would play his classical or jazz music on his vinyl records? Or your mom would turn the volume up on Saturday mornings when cleaning? Record players gained popularity in the 60s and 70s, and the record industry thrived. In 1978, vinyl record sales peaked at $2.5 billion. Vinyl records were the top format for music playback until new technology arrived. Cassette tapes and the Walkman from Sony marked the start of a decline in vinyl sales. The cassette and Walkman were portable, which sealed the deal. Besides the cassette tape, compact discs, or CDs, entered the market and offered more storage capacity, accurate sound, and convenience. Unlike vinyl, the CD had zero flutter and no dusty grooves to alter the sound quality. All through the 90s, vinyl record sales plummeted until they were eventually forgotten. Everyone old enough has some type of memory of typewriters, as they were standard in offices, homes, and schools. It was an ingenious invention and allowed people to neatly type official documents. Typewriters were convenient in that they did not need electricity to function. The advent of computers started the typewriter's decline, as they made it easier to format and edit documents. If you made an error while typing, you must either start afresh or use correction fluid. The early typewriters cost between $50 and $120, making them affordable for personal and professional use. Correctional fluid, or liquid paper, whiteout, was the equivalent of your computer's undo, delete, or backspace buttons. It was a lifesaver for typists back in the day. Without it, the alternative was to start retyping afresh, which was cumbersome. Bet Nesmith Graham invented correction fluid to help people cover typing errors. It was fast-drying, making it incredibly practical. At this point, the typewriter was the primary tool used to type documents. A tiny mistake could ruin an entire document. Whiteout allowed one to cover the error and present the now perfect document. Camera film existed for anyone born before the advent of digital photos. This was the go-to for anyone who wanted to capture memories that would last a long time. Top brands at the time were Fujifilm and Kodak, offering customers film rolls that could take 24 or 36 photos. Unlike today, where digital cameras take instant photos, you had to wait until you developed the film to see how your photos turned out. Most of us remember taking the rolls of film to the photo shop or local pharmacy, then eagerly anticipating picking up the prints after a few days. Film had advantages like the depth and vibrancy of the colors. However, one disadvantage was that light exposure could ruin the entire roll of film. By 1990, digital cameras started trickling into the market, drastically reducing film usage. Today, a few enthusiasts still use film to take photos. Telex machines were an easy way for businesses to communicate by sending messages quickly. Invented in 1926 by German physicist Dr. Heinrich Budelmann, the telex used telegraph technology to send documents over long distances, making it vital for internal company communication. You could instantly send and receive messages over the telex, a massive leap from traditional snail mail. This type of communication was crucial for urgent decisions and transactions. A telex machine used a standalone line to prevent interruptions when sending or receiving messages. When discussing fast and effective communication, fax machines also fall into that category. In the 70s, the fax machine made business communication much easier across long distances. You could send and receive documentation in minutes. These bulky machines were indispensable in offices and could handle 5 to 6 pages per fax. Nothing was as frustrating as a paper jam when you eagerly awaited a critical fax. By the 90s, people started using emails and fax machine use dwindled. Today, fax machines are unheard of in offices, except in industries like law and healthcare, where physical documents are still needed. Communication has changed immensely since the 1970s and 1980s. The rotary phone was a staple in almost all households in America, but today it's a memory, a relic used as decor. We've come a long way from those bulky phones. Making a phone call on the rotary phone was an exercise in patience, not that we had a choice. You had to select each number by hooking your finger into a small round depression, dialing it to the end, letting it whir back, and repeating the process for all the numbers. If you dialed the wrong number, you had to start over. In the early 1970s, party lines meant you could pick up the phone and hear other people's conversations. Thank God for technology. Now we have privacy with passwords and end-to-end encryption. In the 70s, little information was available about the harm lead could bring. We had lead paint and leaded gasoline, which we later discovered were dangerous. Leaded gasoline helped car engines perform smoothly, run better, and prevent engine knocks. However, we later discovered that lead caused severe health issues like high blood pressure, kidney damage, and brain issues. The lead particles released into the air also polluted the environment. In the 1970s, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, or EPA, decided to phase out leaded gasoline. By the 1990s, unleaded gasoline had replaced leaded gas, offering a cleaner and safer alternative. What did we do when we wanted to call someone but didn't have their number? Before digital directories and smartphones, we had the phone book, an essential tool. The yellow pages contained business numbers, while the white pages listed people's numbers and addresses. If your home had a telephone, you likely had a phone book near the phone or the kitchen counter. By the early 2000s, digital directories and smartphones had replaced the bulky phone book. Life before technological advancement might sound more complicated than it actually was. Who remembers mimeograph machines or stencil duplicators? These machines were once prevalent in offices and schools for making copies. The mimeograph was invented in 1887 and worked by passing ink through a stencil to make copies. It was faster and cheaper than conventional printing press machines. Office workers could easily make a memo, or a teacher could prepare student worksheets. But photocopying machines and digital printers made them obsolete. Those who remember the mimeograph might recall its distinct and pleasant fragrance. The ink contained isopropanol and methanol, which together had a pleasing smell. Cassette tapes were invented in 1962, but 8-track tapes existed long before CDs. These tapes were an excellent playback tool for listening to music, especially on long drives. The tracks came in large cartridges that allowed you to play music without rewinding. But if you loved a song, you had to listen to the end and start over to hear it again. 8-track tapes were bulky and had poor sound quality. Their popularity plummeted in the 70s with the arrival of compact cassette tapes, a game changer. These tapes were small, portable, and offered better audio quality. Best of all, you could rewind or fast forward as much as you wanted. Some collectors still keep 8-track tapes as a nostalgic reminder of days gone by. In the 1970s, all cars had manual or crank windows. To roll them up or down, you had to turn a small crank handle, either clockwise or anti-clockwise. In the 80s, manufacturers began installing electric car windows, and manual cranks started to disappear for most car models. Today, it's very rare to see a manual crank window. The demand for music on the go has grown over time, starting in the 50s with transistor radios. The Woelfel brothers revolutionized this in 1975 by inventing the boombox or ghetto blaster. The most important function of the boombox, you could record directly onto your cassette. In 1984, the breakdancing bug swept through America. Every young person walked around with a boombox on their shoulder as they danced on street corners. The boombox thrived through the late 80s, but declined in the 90s as CD players became more affordable. Yet, some still kept their boomboxes intact, hidden away in their garages or attics. CB radios were a vital communication gadget, especially for long-distance truck drivers. They used the radio to share road updates or help stay awake during long drives. In a way, CB radios were the first glimpse of today's WhatsApp voice notes. They connected people across the country, creating a unique community with its own slang and culture. The devices were affordable, costing between $50 and $100, and easy for anyone to use, even at home. But as technology advanced, cell phones took over, offering instant and better quality communication. Remember when your mom, aunties, or other siblings never missed an episode of Dallas or Knots Landing? You woke up early Saturday mornings to catch your favorite cartoons. Families planned their evenings around the TV Guide, the ultimate tool for navigating numerous programs on different channels. Published weekly, the TV Guide provided show summaries, program schedules, and behind-the-scenes tidbits from major TV networks. For just 15 to 25 cents, it offered affordable access to interviews and hot celebrity gossip. However, digital TV guides eventually replaced the publication, forcing it to transition to an online format. Speaking of TV, who could forget the crazy and annoying task of adjusting the TV antenna? The antenna mounted on roofs or as indoor rabbit ears received over-the-air signals. With it, you could watch broadcast channels featuring sports, entertainment, or news. But any slight movement, like strong winds or even a squirrel, could shift the antenna, ruining picture quality. Then came satellite, cable, and streaming services, offering a range of channels and clearer reception. This marked the slow death of the antenna. Have you ever seen a dictaphone? Invented by Alexander Graham Bell, it was a key tool for recording dictation in fields like medicine and law. The original dictaphones used wax cylinders to capture sound, which later transitioned to magnetic tape. These devices were perfect for authors, journalists, and anyone who needed to store long recordings. They were indispensable for lengthy meetings or recording thoughts and ideas. Yet, with the rise of smartphones, the dictaphone faded into oblivion. We used hundreds of things back in the day that are now forgotten. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, share and comment so that YouTube recommends it to more vintage baddies like yourself. Press that notification bell and you'll get a notification every time we post a new video. See you in the next one.